Albert Einstein, one of the greatest scientific minds of the 20th century, was not only a physicist who changed the way we understand the universe but also a philosopher with profound insights into the nature of existence. His thoughts often intersected the domains of science, spirituality, and philosophy, allowing us to glimpse his expansive vision for humanity. Among his many illuminating statements, two remarks stand out when considering religion, particularly Buddhism. He once said, "Buddhism has the characteristics of what would be expected in a cosmic religion for the future. It transcends a personal God, avoids dogmas and theology, it covers both the natural and spiritual, and it is based on a religious sense aspiring from the experience of all things, natural and spiritual, as a meaningful unity." He also remarked, "If there is any religion that would cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism." How remarkable is that? A mind as brilliant as Einstein's looked to Buddhism as the blueprint for future spirituality. Let us delve deeper into these statements to understand why he found Buddhism so uniquely relevant to the scientific worldview, and perhaps even more importantly, to the needs of humanity. Buddhism as a cosmic religion. What is a cosmic religion? Einstein's concept suggests a belief system that transcends individual gods, that moves beyond the confines of culture and tradition. In this sense, Buddhism aligns perfectly with what Einstein envisioned for a universal religion. Unlike many organized religions that focus on a personal deity, Buddhism emphasizes interconnectedness, compassion, and the pursuit of inner enlightenment. Have you ever wondered what it means to look within for the divine? How freeing it might be to not rely on external authority to define our spiritual journey. This internal journey, this quest for awakening, is perhaps what drew Einstein to Buddhism as a potential, cosmic, faith, a religion not of form, but of experience. Buddhism's ability to transcend cultural boundaries and focus on the nature of existence is what sets it apart. Instead of adhering to rigid dogmas, it encourages questioning, exploration, and empirical validation, qualities that resonate deeply with the scientific spirit. Isn't that beautiful? The notion that enlightenment comes from direct understanding, rather than blind belief, mirrors the scientific method of experimentation, observation, and evidence. For Einstein, this was key. The idea that anyone, anywhere, regardless of background, could explore and experience these truths without restriction, this was something truly cosmic. In a broader sense, Einstein's ideal of a cosmic religion is one that bridges the natural and the spiritual, weaving them into a meaningful whole. Buddhism does exactly this by seeing natural and spiritual experiences as intertwined, two facets of the same reality. The teachings on interdependence, suffering, dukkha, and the cyclical nature of life, samsara, reflect an intricate understanding of both the inner mind and the external universe. By addressing these realms without compartmentalizing them, Buddhism offers a holistic view of existence that fits Einstein's aspiration for a religion of the future. Buddhism's focus on compassion also speaks to its cosmic nature. The idea that all beings are connected means that kindness and empathy aren't just moral choices, they are necessary. Isn't it astonishing to think that each act of compassion reverberates throughout the entire cosmos, affecting all beings? The concept of metta, or loving-kindness meditation, is about cultivating this universal love. It's about breaking down the barriers between self and others, transcending our ego-driven boundaries. This resonates deeply with Einstein's vision of a humanity united, working together in harmony rather than being divided by nationality, ethnicity, or religious differences. Beyond dogma and theology. Einstein had a well-known skepticism towards organized religion, particularly its reliance on dogmas and inflexible beliefs. He yearned for a spiritual perspective that embraced open inquiry, and here again, Buddhism caught his attention. In Buddhism, teachings are meant to be tested, questioned, and verified through personal experience. In the Kalama Sutta, the Buddha himself advises followers not to accept teachings blindly, even if they come from a revered authority. Isn't that incredibly empowering? Imagine being told that your experience, your questions, and your doubts are not only valid but encouraged. This freedom from dogma is rare among religious traditions, and it's what makes Buddhism stand out. Instead of rigid commandments, Buddhism offers the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path as guidelines, frameworks for personal growth rather than unbending rules. They are pathways to liberation that each individual must explore in their own way. How different would the world be if more belief systems encouraged us to walk our own path to enlightenment, rather than demanding conformity? Furthermore, Einstein's comment about avoiding theology highlights an important aspect of Buddhism: its practicality. It doesn't dwell on metaphysical speculations about God, the afterlife, or the universe. Instead, Buddhism is concerned with reducing suffering, cultivating ethical behavior, and gaining wisdom, all very tangible, applicable things. Why argue endlessly about the unknowable when we can apply ourselves to the here and now, making life better for ourselves and others? This practicality is why Einstein believed Buddhism was uniquely capable of coping with modern scientific needs. It addresses real human issues without unnecessary abstraction, inviting us to make a real difference in the quality of our lives. Integration of natural and spiritual realms. One of the most inspiring aspects of Einstein's thinking is his understanding of the universe as a unified whole, an interconnected web where everything influences everything else. This perspective is mirrored beautifully in Buddhism, which makes no clear distinction between the natural and spiritual. Have you ever thought about how interconnected everything is? How the very breath you take is part of a cycle that has existed for millions of years. Buddhism teaches us about dependent origination, a principle that everything arises in dependence upon multiple causes and conditions. Nothing exists in isolation. Meditation in Buddhism serves as a means to experience this truth firsthand, to understand deeply the nature of the mind and its inseparable connection to the world. Isn't it fascinating that through simply sitting in stillness, we can come to understand the fundamental truths of the universe? For Einstein, who spoke of a religious sense born from awe at the order of nature, this kind of direct, experiential awareness must have seemed profoundly resonant. The Buddhist concept of non-duality, particularly emphasized in Mahayana and Zen traditions, aligns with Einstein's worldview as well. Non-duality rejects the separation between subject and object, between observer and observed. Doesn't it make you wonder about the nature of reality itself? Who are we if not a part of everything around us? In quantum physics, the observer cannot be fully separated from the observed, a revelation that blurs the boundaries between self and other. Buddhism has been articulating this insight for centuries, urging practitioners to dissolve the ego and experience reality as it truly is, interconnected, boundless, and wondrous. Buddhism and modern scientific needs. When Einstein said, "If there is any religion that would cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism," he was pointing to the compatibility between Buddhism and scientific principles. And indeed, Buddhism's insights often align with the latest discoveries in science, particularly in quantum physics, psychology, and neuroscience. Isn't it incredible to think that a wisdom tradition over 2,500 years old could hold such relevance today? In quantum physics, for instance, the nature of reality is understood as being fluid, interconnected, and fundamentally uncertain, concepts that resonate with the Buddhist idea of shunyata, or emptiness. Emptiness doesn't mean nothingness, rather, it means that all phenomena are devoid of independent existence and arise only through interdependence. Likewise, the concept of impermanence, anicca, in Buddhism mirrors the scientific understanding that the universe is in constant flux, nothing is fixed or permanent. Modern psychology, too, finds common ground with Buddhism. Practices like mindfulness, which originate from Buddhist meditation, are now widely accepted methods for managing stress, improving emotional regulation, and enhancing overall well-being. Isn't it beautiful how something as simple as paying attention to one's breath can lead to profound changes in the brain and help heal our emotional wounds? The empirical evidence supporting the benefits of meditation demonstrates that these ancient practices are not just spiritually enriching but scientifically sound. Buddhism's emphasis on experiential knowledge, knowing through direct experience rather than through faith or scripture, also aligns well with the scientific approach. The Buddha himself encouraged his followers to come and see for themselves, to investigate, to question, to test his teachings in their own lives. Isn't that what science is all about? Not accepting something until it's been verified, until it's been lived and experienced firsthand. This spirit of inquiry is exactly why Einstein admired Buddhism. It's not a doctrine that demands belief, it's an invitation to explore, to experience, and to understand. The timeless wisdom of Buddhism and its impact on modern challenges. As we delve deeper into the alignment between Buddhism and modern scientific thinking, it's crucial to understand how the core teachings of Buddhism provide profound answers to some of today's most pressing challenges. The wisdom of the Buddha, passed down through millennia, is not confined to philosophical or meditative insights. It holds practical implications that are highly relevant to our current social, psychological, and environmental crises. Einstein's belief that Buddhism would cope with modern needs is more pertinent today than ever. Let's explore how this ancient tradition speaks to the dilemmas we face in the 21st century. Buddhism and mental health, finding calm amid chaos. In our current age, mental health challenges have become widespread, affecting millions across the globe. Anxiety, depression, and chronic stress are commonplace, and our increasingly fast-paced, technology-driven lifestyles often exacerbate these conditions. Here, the role of mindfulness, a cornerstone of Buddhist practice, becomes particularly significant. Mindfulness is the practice of being present, of fully experiencing the moment without judgment. Have you ever noticed how often our minds drift into worries about the future or regrets about the past? This constant oscillation is a major source of our stress and dissatisfaction. The Buddhist practice of mindfulness invites us to return to the present moment, to experience life as it unfolds without being swept away by negative thoughts. It's as if Buddhism provides us with an anchor, something that keeps us steady amid the turbulent waves of daily life. The Buddha's teachings on dukkha, often translated as suffering or unsatisfactoriness, acknowledge that life inevitably involves hardship. But Buddhism doesn't stop there. It provides tools to alleviate this suffering through mindful awareness, ethical conduct, and wisdom. Imagine the transformative power of these tools in our lives today. Instead of numbing our pain with distractions or substances, Buddhism teaches us to face it, to understand it, and ultimately to transcend it. This approach is now supported by modern psychology, where mindfulness-based interventions have become a key component of many therapeutic practices. Meditation, another central practice in Buddhism, has also gained widespread recognition as a method for enhancing mental health. Through meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts without attachment, gradually gaining the ability to calm our minds. Isn't it liberating to think that by simply observing our thoughts without judgment, we can change our relationship with them? Neuroscientific research has shown that regular meditation can alter brain structures, increasing gray matter in areas related to emotional regulation and empathy. Such findings underscore what Buddhists have known for centuries. Mindful meditation is not just a spiritual exercise but a practical, transformative practice for the mind. Compassion in action, addressing social inequality. Buddhism's focus on compassion provides another profound response to one of the most pressing issues of our time, social inequality. The teachings of the Buddha emphasize that all beings are interconnected, that our well-being is intrinsically linked to the well-being of others. What if we all truly embraced this perspective? How different would our society look if compassion guided our actions? The Buddhist practice of karuna, or compassion, calls on individuals to alleviate the suffering of others. It's not a passive sentiment but an active commitment to make a positive difference. This teaching resonates deeply with the principle of social justice, which seeks to address inequalities and uplift those who are marginalized. Imagine a world where compassion was not just an individual choice but the driving force behind political and social systems. A society structured on the foundation of compassion would prioritize the needs of the vulnerable, ensure fair distribution of resources, and promote policies that uplift rather than exploit. Einstein himself was deeply concerned with social justice. He spoke out against racism, advocated for civil rights, and believed in the equality of all human beings. His vision of a compassionate society aligns closely with Buddhist ideals. In a world increasingly divided along lines of wealth, race, and nationality, Buddhism's emphasis on universal compassion provides a powerful antidote to the forces of division. It invites us to break down the barriers that separate us, to see others not as strangers but as extensions of ourselves. Environmental responsibility, the Buddhist view of interdependence. Environmental degradation is perhaps the most critical challenge of our age. The consequences of climate change, deforestation, pollution, and loss of biodiversity threaten not only human civilization but all life on Earth. What does Buddhism have to say about this? Surprisingly, a lot. The teachings on interdependence and non-harm, ahimsa, provide a framework for understanding our relationship with the natural world that is both ethical and profoundly ecological. Buddhism teaches that all life is interconnected, that our actions affect not only ourselves but all beings. This concept of dependent origination underscores that nothing exists independently, everything arises in connection with everything else. How would our behavior change if we deeply understood this truth? Would we continue to exploit the Earth's resources without considering the consequences for future generations? The principle of ahimsa, or non-violence, extends beyond human relationships to include all living beings. It encourages us to live in a way that minimizes harm to other creatures and to the environment. Imagine if this principle guided our interactions with the planet, if industries, governments, and individuals prioritized non-harm over profit and convenience. We would see a drastic reduction in pollution, a shift towards renewable energy, and a more sustainable way of life. Einstein, who was known for his love of nature, would likely have resonated with this perspective. He once said, "Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better." Buddhism, with its deep reverence for all forms of life, aligns with this sentiment and offers a path forward, a way to live that honors and respects the natural world rather than exploiting it. The science of mind, Buddhism's contribution to understanding consciousness. One of the most fascinating areas of intersection between Buddhism and modern science is the study of consciousness. What is the nature of the mind? How do our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions shape our experience of reality? These questions have intrigued both neuroscientists and Buddhist practitioners for centuries, albeit from different perspectives. Einstein's belief in Buddhism's potential to cope with modern scientific needs is particularly relevant here, as Buddhism offers a rich understanding of the mind that complements scientific inquiry. The Buddhist concept of not-self, anatta, challenges the notion of a fixed, unchanging self. Instead, it suggests that what we consider the self is a collection of changing physical and mental processes. This idea, though radical, finds support in modern neuroscience, which shows that the brain is in a constant state of flux and that our sense of self is constructed through ongoing neural processes. Isn't it mind-blowing to think that the very idea of I might be an illusion? Buddhist meditation practices, particularly Vipassana, insight meditation, are designed to help practitioners observe the mind and understand its true nature. Through meditation, individuals can directly experience the impermanent and interdependent nature of thoughts and emotions. This experiential understanding aligns with the findings of neuroscience, which reveal that our thoughts and emotions are transient events rather than fixed aspects of who we are. Moreover, the practice of mindfulness, a key component of Buddhist meditation, has been shown to have significant effects on brain function. Studies have demonstrated that mindfulness can increase activity in the prefrontal cortex, associated with positive emotions and self-regulation, and decrease activity in the amygdala, associated with fear and anxiety. Such findings provide empirical evidence for the transformative power of Buddhist practices, highlighting their potential to enhance mental well-being and offer insights into the workings of the mind. Einstein's vision of a harmonious future. Albert Einstein was a visionary, not just in the realm of physics but in his understanding of humanity's potential. He believed in the power of the human spirit to rise above divisions, to transcend ego, and to work collectively for the greater good. In Buddhism, he found a spiritual tradition that echoed these values, one that offered a path to both personal enlightenment and societal harmony. Imagine a future where the principles of Buddhism, compassion, mindfulness, interdependence, are woven into the fabric of society. A world where individuals are encouraged to look within, to understand their own minds, and to cultivate empathy for others. A world where science and spirituality are not seen as opposing forces but as complementary paths to understanding the mysteries of existence. This was Einstein's dream, a vision of humanity that is at once rational and deeply spiritual, grounded in both intellectual inquiry and a profound sense of wonder. Buddhism's emphasis on inner transformation offers a key to realizing this vision. Change begins within each of us. By cultivating mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, we can contribute to a more peaceful and harmonious world. Isn't it inspiring to think that the path to a better future lies not in grand gestures but in the simple, everyday practice of kindness, awareness, and understanding? Einstein's admiration for Buddhism serves as a reminder that the answers to our most profound questions often lie not in the complexity of external discoveries but in the simplicity of inner truth. As we navigate the challenges of the modern world, may we take inspiration from both Einstein's scientific genius and his spiritual insight, seeking not only to understand the universe but also to live in harmony with it. In this way, we honor his legacy and move closer to the kind of enlightened, compassionate, and unified world that he envisioned.